about an experience I had as a woman, American expat, pregnant in the Middle East, with a doctor abandoning his practice and leaving the country on a whim. And what it actually sparked was a lot of questions about Saudi healthcare in general. And though I can only speak to my experience, I was able to do a little research. So I have some answers, and I thought that a video would be the best way to explain them. So let's dive in. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, I was going to schedule a doctor's appointment. And even before I could schedule a follow-up with my OB, a fellow member of my community posted to our compound WhatsApp group asking for a new doctor recommendation as her doctor had left the country. So I messaged her because her doctor is my doctor, and come to discover that this doctor up and left, whether by choice or not, I'm not sure. However, none of the patients were notified by the doctor or the hospital. And there's definitely some mixed viewpoints as to whether that's common or not. However, the overwhelming majority of people wrote back going, I cannot believe this. This is insane. Of course, my mother was not pleased. Personally, my experience with health insurance in the United States, Houston specifically, I've had multiple OBs leave practices, and I've always received notice by the hospital, not necessarily by the doctor. Actually, I think my first OB in Houston ever sent an email. I don't know, but definitely my most recent OB left the practice that I delivered Cohen with, and the hospital, the practice sent out an email and said, here are your options. We can move you over to one of our other doctors in the practice, or we can send your medical records wherever you would like us to. So basically you weren't just up and abandoned and had no idea that you were no longer a patient of the hospital. Thankfully, someone else popped on and had a recommendation at the same hospital, so it's been a really easy transition, and I actually am enjoying this doctor even more. But it did spark some questions about Saudi healthcare specifically, and what our options are here, how the government plays a role, etc. So I have to thank my friend Casey for first digging into this, because we were trying to answer the questions, or we were talking this out together, and she said that she was able to find some information, and I further went online and investigated. Saudi Arabia does provide free healthcare. Whether or not that extends to expats currently, I'm not sure, but I do know that the Saudi citizens are entitled to government free healthcare. Saudi views healthcare as a fundamental right. And I do believe that at least up until a certain point in time, expats did as well. In the 1990s, due to low oil prices in the 80s, Saudi Arabia then started shifting some of its focus towards the privatization of healthcare. It is multifaceted, so in the form of the privatization of hospitals, in private health insurance, there's phases, and so since 1990, they've really been pushing for privatization. And as an expat currently in Saudi Arabia, I do have private healthcare provided by my husband's company. So it's very similar to what I experience in the United States. I don't know the options. I have not researched further how many other private healthcare companies are out there. I am with probably what I think is the most popular one, and the only one that I've really seen. You see signs for it everywhere in buildings, and there's a kiosk for my health insurance in my hospital. I do attend a private hospital. So this is the only hospital I've been to in Saudi Arabia. I will say that even from what I saw online, I could tell that it was going to be very clean, very high tech. That is what I have found since attending there. I have no issues with the level of technology, and even with the knowledge of the doctors that I've seen. My previous doctor, though he was not warm and fuzzy, he was very knowledgeable and did provide me a sense of comfort in a sense that I could trust. He understood my pregnancy, my history. He knew the right questions to ask. He was able to explain things to me when I was concerned. I never questioned his knowledge. Definitely not the warm and fuzzy, experience that I had back home. As the second pregnancy, I didn't need as much warm and fuzzy or comforting. I really just needed to know the facts. Baby's on schedule, baby's growing appropriately, no genetic concerns, yada, yada, yada. So, second doctor is a little fuzzier, a little warmer, but still extremely knowledgeable. She's a bit more hands-on, which I think also is probably more appropriate culturally. Men doctors here, I think, might not feel as comfortable having their hands on you as much. I definitely had more interaction with technicians with my first doctor. So I have private health care. I may or may not have access to free governmental health care. Saudi citizens do have are entitled to free health care for sure, and also the option for private. I wanted to speak to my experiences in the hospital. One, just to document and highlight. I mean, it's different. I don't know if my experience at my hospital is unique to that hospital or is more common amongst private hospitals or all the hospitals across Saudi, because again, I've only been to the one. Like I said, it's immaculately clean, it's high tech, but when it comes to using your private insurance, it can be what's the word? I mean, a challenge, but like a circus. It can be a circus. My first 2 appointments at the hospital, I left in tears. I was there for 3 hours. It has definitely gotten better since then. Maybe because I'm more familiar with the system, or the hospital's more familiar with me. I'm not sure. Also because I do get the sense that in Saudi Arabia, the first trimester, up to the first 18 weeks, aren't viewed as critically as they are in the United States. So whereas in the US, it's get here at 8 weeks, let's see you every 4 weeks, and let's get all of this information right off the bat. I don't feel like in Saudi Arabia, the standard of care is that intense that quickly. Definitely they check for viability at 8 weeks. Then I believe I did come back 4 weeks later, and then not till 6 weeks later. But I'm 35, so I think that put me in a higher risk category just by age. Pregnancy's been totally healthy and normal, but that I think maybe entitled me to a scan, whereas one of my friends who's a week ahead of me in pregnancy but is under 30, she was not entitled to a scan right off the bat and needed to actually pay for it out of pocket. slight differences. Yeah, but the hardest thing for me off the bat at this hospital was that, okay, you walk in, making an appointment, super easy. Same day appointments, super easy. Walk-in appointments at your OB, sure, why not? Like, that's kind of incredible that you have that kind of accessibility. However, you walk in, you take a ticket, you queue, you meet with the OB desk, they check you in for your appointment, you pay a copay if you have one. It's been minimal in my experiences. And then you get called back, you go see the doctor, very quick interaction, take your weight, take your height, get some basic info. Then you have a little card, then they check off, okay, we want you to go to the lab today, we want you to go to radiology today, yada, yada, yada. We want you to see the pharmacy. And each one of those is a different desk with a different queue and a different copay, and none of that can take place until you've gone from that registration or from that appointment to the insurance desk, the approvals desk. And there you wait. And at least for my first 2 appointments, I was waiting over half an hour for these approvals. Things were getting rejected, only partially approved. I have thyroid issues, so I need medication during pregnancy because your baby needs thyroid hormone too, so you have to provide not for yourself, or not only for yourself, but for yourself and your baby, so I need some extra to give the baby. And the insurance was trying to say that the maternity policy I needed to see a different doctor to get my thyroid checked, because thyroid doesn't have to do with maternity, it's not part of the maternity package. And then I got sent back to my OB, and my OB said that's ludicrous because pregnancy is changing your thyroid, so I need to monitor it. Back, forth. I'm getting, I have my son who needs to be picked up from school. I've been sitting at this appointment for hours. It was very stressful. And okay, fine, get whatever approved. Now I need to go go on the same floor to get my labs drawn. And then I get my labs, get the queue, pay my copay, get my labs drawn. Yeah, so I get my labs drawn, go to radiology, then radiology tells me we're not doing scans today, and the next available scan isn't for a week, so I end up having to make another appointment, come back and get my 8-week scan at my 9-week appointment. So I come back for my 9-week scan, mostly see that everything's fine. The technician was very, very detailed and mentioned a very tiny, teeny tiny hematoma on my scan. Didn't know what that was, had to Google it, read terrible things once I Googled it, which they always tell you not to do. Ended up crying back in my doctor's office, who I didn't have an appointment to see, but they brought me back in to see him. And then when he realizes what they've said, he's all up in arms. Oh, they never should have pointed that out to you. That means nothing. It's literally a bruise that your body formed during attachment, So the baby attaching in my uterus caused a little bruise, and that's what showed up. It was teeny tiny. It will disappear in a week or 2. You're fine, go ahead. So he was comforting and providing that knowledge for me, and we were almost upset that I was given so much detail in my anatomy scan, or my viability scan, that it caused me worry, because I had never heard of having a hematoma in your uterus. So, and obviously if you have a very large one, then it can actually be a risk factor for losing your baby. So I was very sensitive to that word, but all ended up being fine. Okay, so then I have to come in for a 12-week appointment. This is the one I believe that I left really crying. I ended up going in the evening. I went in the evening. it was that scan that I left crying. When I came back and they had tried to tell me that it wasn't approved. And I was going back, forth, trying to get all my stuff approved. I should have recorded this in the moment when it happened, because pregnancy brain, hello. Trying to recall exactly which appointment the details happened. Okay, girls, so here goes my saga. I wanted to start by saying, healthy baby, 9 weeks, good heartbeat, good spot, everything's good. Today's experience at the hospital had me in tears twice. So I get there. The only point of me having this appointment was because they didn't do scans the day of my 8-week appointment. So they had me just come back the soonest available, which was today. And I go straight up to radiology, get called back. Lady does my scan. She's not that personable, but she's like, okay, good heartbeat, here you go. You know, she smiles a little bit when I get like teary-eyed, because when you hear the heartbeat. And, you know, shows me where it is. And she's taking all these pictures or whatever. And so then she finishes up. And she's like packing away and wiping my stomach and doing all that stuff. And she's like, small hematoma, 3 millimeters. Go see your doctor. And that's it. Like, she just walks out of the room. And she's like on the other side of the like curtain. And so I go on the other side of the curtain and I'm like, well, I don't have an appointment to see my doctor today. And she just kind of looks at me. She's like, and I said, well, can I get a picture of the ultrasound? Oh, go get that from reception. Okay. So I'm like, I'm not going to go see my doctor. Like, I guess I'll call and try and make an appointment. So I'm Googling like hematoma, and it's 3 millimeters. So I'm looking, and that's like the teeny tiniest. They go on scales of like 2 to 150. So and they're very common, I guess, in pregnancy, but bigger ones can put you at risk for miscarriage. So of course I'm like, well, she's telling me to go see my doctor and she won't give me a picture of the baby. So like, maybe I need to be taking this more seriously. And so I go down to reception and I'm like, I just had a scan, like an ultrasound. They told me to come here for my pictures. And she looks at me like I'm freaking crazy. And she's like, she scans my number and she's like, oh no, you go see your doctor. It's like, oh my God, why are they telling me to see my doctor today? I'm not supposed to see him for like another month or 3 weeks. And so they get me right back to see him, which is nice, except for I'm like, this sounds serious. I mean, maybe he just didn't have any other appointments, but like I just go straight back and I walk into his office and he's like, so everything okay? And I just burst into tears and I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. He says, oh, whoa. Like, no, everything great. But he says, but how are you feeling? You feel everything is okay? And I said, I felt absolutely great until I just had this scan. And they tell me I have a hematoma and to come see my doctor. And he just rolls his eyes and not at me. He's like, oh, he says, those ladies, they just measure everything. And so he's not like a warm and fuzzy guy, but he's very knowledgeable and he's comforting in that sense. So he turns the computer around and he says, everything is great. Size, tells me the size, heartbeat, good. Here's the location. Here's your uterus. Here's the egg sac where it's getting its nourishment for now. Here's where your placenta is forming. And he says, and that little blip right there, he says, I don't know why she measured it. She shouldn't have measured it and she shouldn't have told you about it. He says that is from implantation. And he said, sometimes it can result in external bleeding. He's like, but you haven't had any external bleeding. No. He's like, yeah, no, it's just the like little, trauma that happens in the uterus when this whole thing is happening. And he says, it's totally normal. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And so, okay, that makes me feel better. And he says, but, part of your lab work that you got last week was rejected. Like they didn't do my thyroid
And I knew they weren't doing my thyroid. He says, that's absolutely ridiculous. I refuse to accept that they're not going to do that. You have to track this while you're pregnant. I have to track this while you're pregnant. He says, so I'm putting it in again. Go do it again. So I'm like, great. Well, I'm already at the hospital. I guess I'm getting more blood work. So I have to go. I know from my first experience, that means I have to go to an approvals desk. So and then I walk out of my doctor's office to go to get my approval. And I'm like, oh, but can I get a picture of my ultrasound? Because I told the lady at reception told me to see my doctor. Doctor says, no, maybe you can get that from medical records, but you should just get that from radiology. I was like, oh my God, I was just effing there. And so I go to the approvals desk. I have to wait this whole thing they reject my thyroid thing. And then I go back to the desk and I said, my doctor is demanding these labs. I have to have these labs. So they do whatever and they say, okay, approved. So then I go up to the laboratory. I wait in the line, get my little ticket. They call me back. Lady says, nope, these are rejected. So I go back down to the approvals desk. And she says, no, they're approved. It just took a while, I guess, for the system. Go back up. So I go back up. The lady checks me, and there's been a shift change, so it takes like 10 minutes. This lady comes. She takes my card. She says something like, one approval. I'm like, okay, that's fine, one approval. Like, I knew there was a couple of labs my doctor said weren't as important that had been rejected, just because it's so early. But the thyroid one had been approved. And I was like, yeah, that's the only one I need, so that's fine, one approval. She goes, take a seat. I am sitting there for like 35 minutes. And people are getting called back and having their blood taken. And I'm making eyes at the phlebotomist, and she's looking at me, and I'm looking at the front desk lady, and I'm like, what? Waiting for somebody to acknowledge my presence. And finally, I start pacing because I've been there so long. Cohen's got a babysitter, and it's getting close to, me needing to go to get him ready for bed. And finally the phlebotomist comes out and she's like, are you waiting? And I was like, yeah, I've been waiting. She's like, well, where's your receipt? I said, this lady at check-in did not give me a receipt. And I point at the lady. The lady looks like she has never seen me before. And I was like, my doctor is demanding that I have these labs drawn. I just need them done. So they call me back. Both times that I've had blood drawn at this lab, the ladies back there are the absolute nicest. And the lady said, I'm so sorry, like, you've been here a long time. And I just start bursting into tears for the second time. And I'm like, I have been at this hospital for going on 3 hours. All I wanted was a picture of my baby to tell me that it's okay and in the right spot. And I don't even have that. And so she's like, calm down, relax. She's talking to me about my tattoo, yada, yada, yada. And so then she does my blood. She's like, you're going to be fine, whatever. So then at this point, I am fed up. And I said, I am not leaving without a picture of this baby. I did not go through all of this just to find out that I have a perfectly healthy baby. And I can't even celebrate with a picture of it. So I go back into radiology. And I tell the lady, I'm not leaving here without a picture of my ultrasound that I had earlier today. And she's just a receptionist. And she's like, oh, okay. And she said, well, where, what's going on? I said, I know, because I messaged a girl that is seeing the same doctor as me at the same hospital. And I know that she got her picture of her ultrasound as soon as from the room that she had her ultrasound in. They just printed it out of the machine and gave it to her, which is what I asked my tech to do. And she tells me, go to reception. So anyway, the lady says, well, what room were you in? So she takes me back to my room. She pulls up the machine, which, scan, are you? I'm this one. This is me. And she kind of looks around and she just picks all the pictures and she prints them out for me. And she says, so they come out of the machine right here. I said, I know that. I said, I saw the technician print them out for her own self, but then she wouldn't give me any. And so then she says, oh, I don't know why. And so I just take my picture and I leave. So I have a bunch. She printed all of them out for me. I don't know what you can even see in there. I should just pick one and talk y'all through it. Now that I know from all the, there's my ovary. Anyway, what's a good one? Where's the good one? Oh yeah, let's do the last, this one. So this is our little, James is calling it a date. He wants to call it a date, not a peanut, because, you know, we're in Saudi and there's a lot of dates. It's like, and it's the little blip, and then the little blip over here is the little egg. Wait, a little blip over here is the egg sac that it's getting its nutrients from, and it's just all good. One baby. And I will have another scan in 12 weeks and see what kind of drama. I just have to mentally prepare to be there for a long time and to give me pushback. I don't know, but I'm at like the nicest hospital in the area. I do like my doctor a lot. It's just the system and having to go, you know, I'm so used to going to your OB's office and you get your blood drawn in the office and you have, the doctor does your scan right there. It's all one-stop shop. And here it's go to this desk, go to reception, get her an approval, go to the lab, go to here, go to here, go to here, you know, just bouncing all over the place, and I'm freaking tired. So yeah, I can't believe that I had 2 crying fits and was stressed beyond belief. And this was a happy, everything's perfect situation. Like, I don't even know what would happen if, you know, something was not great. So
just to say that it is a lot. It's a lot of steps. Going to this desk, get an approval, go get this done. Go over here, oh, that's not approved. Go back to the approvals desk, fight for that to get approved. Go back to your doctor so he can tell the insurance needs to get approved. You're just juggling a lot at these appointments. So it took some getting used to. Now I've had quite a few appointments. I'm 26 weeks pregnant tomorrow, and I've not had more experiences like that. I do still have to go in, get the approvals, ping pong around a little bit, but I've actually had some of my scans right there across the hall from my doctor, so not having to go all the way up to radiology. Just have the ultrasound, get the pictures, you know, right there out of the machine, and good to go. That has been my experience so far. So I did have the doctor, you know, leave the practice very suddenly and without communication. I very quickly found a new doctor. I find making appointments is very easy. Accessibility, I find the technology to be very comforting and up to date. Like I said, very, very clean hospital. I don't know that I'll be giving birth in this hospital. We're trying to get, you know, over to Qatar. That's where my husband is. He's trying to get over here so that as we get closer to baby approaching, should baby come early, he is here and we will give birth here and figure out getting all 4 of us over to Qatar. Ideally, my husband will come over, Cohen and I will get our visas, the 3 of us will go move over to Qatar, and then I will deliver over there. I already have a hospital recommendation. I've looked at doctors just to see if I can get in a couple times with the doctor and get some of a rapport going. However, it's entirely possible that I'll wheel up to the hospital in labor and say, hey, I'm new here, let's have a baby. So it goes with this crazy expat life that we have signed up for. However, I am in good hands. I feel comforted in the level of care I am receiving. It is just so different. It is so different. But thankful to have the access to the private insurance, to be able to attend a private hospital that is so well maintained, because I cannot speak to what it's like to receive government, the free health care. I don't know what that looks like. So I do know both exist here. And that is my answer to that question. So hopefully this was informative and somewhat interesting. If not, I've at least documented it for baby girl, so when she gets here, she can see everything I went through to make sure she was okay and to bring her into this world as happily and healthily as possible. And yeah, that's it. Until next time. How do I phrase that? Privatization. Whew. Okay. Something about being pregnant makes me want to film things.